So the first thing that I can say about gratitude is that it is less instinctual than fear and anger. And in consequence, it's less frequent. Meaning, if we look at the world today, there are significantly higher numbers of people feeling fear, feeling anger, feeling impatient, feeling jealous, feeling obsessive, or simply being numb, than there are people feeling grateful. And one of the reasons and areas this ties in with is that of brain function. The reptilian brain, which is the 200 million year old alligator brain, is the oldest operating system in the human body, and it's based on fear. Its goal is survival, and its protocol is fight that which is smaller than you, run from that which is bigger than you, and freeze if either of those options don't work within the paradigm that the world is trying to consume you, trying to conquer you, is an unfriendly place. And a traumatized group of people will have a highly active reptilian brain. So the absence of gratitude is in part speaking to the prevalence of the reptilian brainstem as an operating system that is primarily looking particularly at the unknown, at anything new, which in a very complex modern world, there's a lot of change and unknown. The primary angle of new data coming in, something I've never seen before, heard about before, is fear. So we have the reptilian brain, we have the limbic brain, the reactive emotional brain, which includes more feelings and more sensations, but again, doesn't bring about gratitude. The reptilian, the limbic, the rational brain. The rational brain is a pattern analyzing brain, and again, it is the predominant brain that is educated in our society today to correlate patterns of energy in the outer environment with patterns of language to create patterns of thought that allow us to predict patterns of energy, be those behavior, be those material phenomena. And the rational brain is about predicting the future with a higher degree of accuracy. And it ties in by default to avoiding fear. I see a car up there, it's moving. My eye is focused on what could go wrong. But the rational brain has no feeling at all. There may be a feeling in response to a thought, but the pattern analyzing process itself of saying I'd better steer to the left here because when all these other cars are doing that, if I don't, I'll be hurt or damage my car, there's a motivation which defaults to fear of pain. I'm afraid that some pain in the past will reappear in the future, and so I'm scanning and trying to navigate so that that pain doesn't occur. So we're not in the terrain of gratitude in the reptilian, the limbic, the rational brain. The first brain area where gratitude starts to emerge is the empathic brain. And this ties into another fact. if a tree falls down right in front of us and doesn't hit us, we're not grateful to the tree because we don't empathize with the tree. Our frame of reference for physiological phenomena is that it just happens. Fires burn. The fire didn't swerve away because it was being kind, nor did the volcano erupt just to persecute me. We don't have this framework of empathy until we get to deities or other people. So if the belief is in a personalized deity that orchestrates all things, then if a tree falls over and hits us, it's, what did I do wrong, God, right? What did I do wrong? Well, how did I offend you? I didn't put enough money in the church. Why are you attacking me with this tree? And so then you can have an empathic relationship with a projected deity. Or if everything swerved around you at just the right moment and you were unhurt, you can have a projected gratitude towards, whether it's called the universe or the Great Spirit or any other named deity, to say that the world is happening to me based on the wishes of an unseen deity, an unseen hand. So there can be anger, question, fear, or gratitude with that perception. So there's a personification. And then something that we all do is imagine that when other people give us $100 when we need some help, or throw something at us, that's personal. And so we take things personally when another entity, another conscious entity, appears to be doing something with us in mind. And so that personification is necessary for the engagement of the empathic brain. And once you empathize, the mirror neurons in our brain attempt to replicate. They create a model of the other people in our life. Now, these are not exact models. They're projected. If every time you say hello to someone, they scowl and turn away, the rational brain wants to figure out what's going on. And so the mirror neurons set out to organize themselves into a pattern that we can relate to. That person doesn't like us. Why don't they like us? Well, let's see. Oh, they're Vietnamese. I wonder if they're angry at Americans for burning women and children alive with napalm. Well, let's see. If I was a Vietnamese person and I'd watched my mother burned alive with napalm and had been told that, that was the those horrible Americans, and then they knew I was an American, maybe I wouldn't like me either, just like if my mother, see, this is how mirror neurons work, just like if my mother was burned alive by napalm by a group of Vietnamese, I might feel hostile towards the Vietnamese for taking away my mother. So there's a narrative, and the mirror neurons attempt to create a model of the other person based on our own frame of reference. If we don't know the other person's frame of reference, we don't know what their beliefs are, we don't know anything about them, then it becomes difficult to create the model. Now, we like certainty so much that we usually create a model anyway. It becomes a faulty model. We don't check out our model, and it turns out the reason they're so annoyed is our dog is taking up, is pooping on their lawn, and they're looking out their window and they see we're not cleaning it up, and that's why they're pissed off. But we've made a faulty model that still explains the behavior. And so the empathic and the mirror neurons collaborate to create some narrative. And we're usually happy with our narrative as long as it allows us to predict the future, because that's the goal. Because if you can predict what will happen and why, then you can take steps to reduce pain and increase well-being based on that predictive power. If you know the stock market is going to go down and you sell your stocks and then you buy it at the low and sell it when it's high, you have pleasure because you were able to increase your well-being, in this case, your financial well-being, by being able to predict the future. And that's the goal of mirror neurons in the rational brain. Now, empathy is neutral. You can empathize with someone's anger towards you. You can not empathize with someone's anger, but then we're back closer in the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is the region of sociopathic behavior. I have zero interest on my impact on you. I don't care about your feelings at all. I'm just focused on survival through fight, flight, and freeze. Now, one of the areas that gratitude emerges is when our empathic brain and our rational brain tells a story that is generous towards us. And so the neighbor comes over with a pie and says, "Welcome to the neighborhood. I recently moved in here, and one of the first people to greet me in the whole neighborhood was a 11-year-old girl next door. And she said, 'We're so happy to have you here. Welcome to the neighborhood. My name's Claire.' Her brother was also warm. And I thought, how nice to be greeted. They didn't have to do that. They could have been afraid because they don't know me. But how nice to be welcomed to the neighbor. And I'm grateful, meaning I wasn't welcomed into my last neighbor by such friendly children. My last neighborhood, I moved in, and the neighbors pretty much ignored me, and I pretty much ignored the neighbors, and so there was none of that. So there's a frame of reference. So one of the components of gratitude is something happens that doesn't always happen. If it always happens and it's taken for granted, there doesn't tend to be a sense of gratitude. And the other part is the narration of a pleasurable story. Now, gratitude is a phenomena, a spontaneous phenomena that results, it erupts when we perceive the combination of the rational brain and the empathic brain, when we perceive that someone, it's not just, a volcano or a car or something, that someone did something to honor the connection. Because empathy is the brain of connection. the reptilian brain is a brain of dissociation. Other than monitoring you as a potential threat or as a potential prey, I'm not interested. The empathic brain is saying, we are a community. You're a human being. You're my neighbor. There's an acknowledgement of connection. And when that acknowledgement is positive, is generous, there's a gratitude, and there can be even more gratitude when it is excessively generous. I was in Thailand a year or so ago, and I had ordered a latte and cake at a new coffee shop. I'd never been in there before in my life. I'm a foreigner. And as she's making the latte, I look for my money and I realize I left it at the apartment. Now I feel mortified because I expect her to be angry at me because she's already prepared the drink. I haven't drunk it yet, but she's wasted time and energy. And I'm expecting that she's only interested in the money, and I'm expecting that she sees me in a neutral light. That's my frame of reference based on years of living in the United States. And I flush because I don't want her to be upset, and I don't want to be a negative influence in her life. I was also looking forward to drinking the latte. And as soon as I notice I don't have the money, I think, I can't take a sip of the drink or anything. I say, I'm so sorry, I don't have my money. It's in my apartment. She says, don't worry about it. You can pay me next time. I've never been treated like that. I'm not expecting it. She is trusting that a stranger who's a tourist in her country, where all kinds of crazy things happen, maybe plans will change the next day, she's expecting that I'm an honorable person. She's believing in me as an honorable person, as someone who tells the truth, without any evidence. In fact, if you look at the history of tourists in Thailand, there is plenty of evidence that tourists in Thailand are jerks at times, are incredibly rude at times, are dishonest, bargain, and she has enough experience in her 40s to understand that the bet that she's taking on my integrity is not a sure bet. Now, her face doesn't flicker. She smiles warmly. I say, I don't want you to feel bad or anything. Don't give me the cake. You've already made the drink. Don't give me the cake. I'm good for it, but you don't know me, and I want to, I don't want to create any emotional strain here. In Thailand, the saying is, "Mai balai ka." Don't worry, it's no problem. She's smiling warmly at me. I'm still a decent, honest person. Now, in my mind, how could I be so careless? This is rude. But she's looking at me better than I'm looking at myself. That is surprising, and it's surprising in this context. I feel immense gratitude, and I recognize in that moment that there is no business on earth that is treating me more like a human being than this woman in a brand new, strange cafe halfway across the world. She wants me to have a good experience in her cafe. She insists on bringing me the cake. So she could have said, well, she's calculating the drink's going to get thrown out. You might as well drink have the drink. She says, no. And she also asks me, is there anything else you would like? And that was the moment when I said, I am going to come to this cafe to appreciate and honor the humanity that this business owner is bestowing on the strangers in her cafe. I want her to succeed. I want there to be more businesses like this. I want to feel like a human being, not just a human dollar. More often. I wasn't expecting it. And I enjoyed that cake. And I enjoyed the latte more than I've enjoyed almost anything else. Because with each bite, what I was eating is the idea that a stranger in a strange land believes in me, that there's a place on the planet that trusts in humanity. And that was worth everything. So, of course, I came back. So there's a certain element of surprise in gratitude. And this is different than giving thanks. You can say thank you. That is a learned behavior. The majority of the time that the word thank you is used, because it is a meme, there's not actually gratitude behind the word. It's a ritual. You say this, they do this, you say thank you. It doesn't matter if you don't want it. It doesn't matter if you are just, I hope my mom doesn't call me out in public for forgetting to say thank you. So in other words, you can actually be motivated out of fear. Or you can have an abstract thought. The civilized thing to do, the rational brain, in a civilized culture, is to say please and thank you. So therefore I will do it, because that's the civilized thing to do. No feeling necessary. It's an equation. You cannot force gratitude. It's there or it's not there. And sometimes you can do a tremendous amount for someone and they feel no gratitude. If they're in fight, flight, and freeze, no gratitude. The reptilian brain is incapable of it. A traumatized person engaging in the world as a scary place will say thank you to mitigate conflict, but doesn't feel grateful. To feel grateful is to honor the rational and the empathic brain in another human being. And this is the first differentiation of a human versus an animal. An animal has instincts. An animal may be very happy. My dog is delighted. If anyone's cooking bacon, he's all very interested. As soon as you give him the food, he tears into it. But he's interested in the food. There's not a feeling of gratitude. There's an instinct of safety, this person gives me bacon from time to time. I better hang out around here. This person always rescues me from other dogs if they try and bully me. So this is the place to hang out. But if another human being came along and was nicer to my dog than me, in terms of giving more bacon more frequently, or, well, he'd brush off to them. My wife is a carnivore, and my dog sits with me when I'm eating, but I'm a vegetarian, so he's not quite as interested in my food. So if I eat first, he'll come and hang out with me. As soon as my wife sits down with the meat, he transfers loyalty to his best option. And he's sincere in his satisfaction, but it's not the same as acknowledging someone else is honoring dignity in me. So what do we tend to feel grateful about? One of the most common and possibly the only things we feel grateful about are the behaviors, the thoughts, the words that support us in climbing our hierarchy of human needs, in meeting our human needs. The first need is survival. So when someone freely shares warmth, food, shelter, medicine, and we recognize, one, that our survival is in jeopardy. And we may also recognize that it's uncertain. We may not be able to meet that on our own. When someone says, you need something, let me help. Here's a sleeping bag. Here's a bowl of soup. It is incredibly normal, if we are not too traumatized to be in the reptilian brain, to feel grateful. The next human need being security. If someone teaches us something that allows us to be more secure, takes the time to say, you know, there's a sharp bend around the corner. A lot of cars have accidents there. You're going a bit fast, slow down. And we recognize, someone took the time to protect my life. Someone showed me some tips on investing. Someone helped me get a loan so that I can buy a house. I'm grateful because my survival is more secure than it was before. The next human need, love and belonging. There's this part of me I'm not sure how I feel about it. I feel a bit embarrassed by this part of myself. This part of myself doesn't feel very welcome, is anticipating rejection and shame, and you see that part of me and you say, please, be seated. I see who you are, and it's welcome here. Immense gratitude. I didn't know I would be accepted. I didn't know this part of me was welcome. I feel a sense of love and belonging. Self-esteem. When we have a principle of telling the truth, and we do tell the truth, our sense of self-esteem rises because we're using a discipline to behave consistently with our values, with our values. We feel better about ourselves. I believe in hard work, I believe in empathy, I believe in this, and I did these and these things, and I feel good about myself. When someone supports us to be the person we want to be, helps us get out of awkward situations where perhaps telling the truth, which is our principle, could lead to some problems if that truth isn't welcome. And someone helps us to navigate and be the person we want to be with dignity, and our self-esteem goes up. We feel grateful. It's a spontaneous feeling that someone is participating in my becoming a human being. When we develop our gifts and talents, discover what they are, someone helps us learn what we're good at. And we find we have this wonderful skill with pottery, and someone says, let's get you a kiln, and let's get you a pottery wheel, and here's some clay. And we discover something we're good at. We didn't know that we were good at it, or helps us get better at what we're good at. A coach, a teacher, that helps us become our best version of ourselves. We feel grateful. We're becoming more. When it comes to, okay, I've made all this beautiful pottery. I don't know about business. I don't know who wants this. I don't know this. And someone participates. Says, you know, I know a good friend that loves pottery like this. Let's take this to them and see where this could be brought into the community and add value. Let's see how it would be best to market this pottery and this and that so that you can do even more and so that people can appreciate your pottery. Excitement. You're becoming more integrated in the community. There's a currency of commerce. I can trade or sell this pottery, and then I can do even more and get even better. You're helping me to become my best self. And the last human need is transcendence. If we're just one isolated fragment that has nothing to do with the rest of the population, it's lonely. It's good up to a point, but once we succeed at being our best selves, the next thing that we need is to become part of something bigger than ourselves. Could be a church, could be an ecological movement, could be a community project, could be a national project. We're going to plant 1 billion trees this year in America. We've got 300 million of you. We want everyone to plant 3 trees. And we're going to beat global warming by planting 3 trees per person every single year until we have 30 billion trees planted. And it's for our grandchildren to have a cleaner environment. And there's a sense of being part of something bigger than just ourselves, that is expansive, that is a human need. It's high on the hierarchy. If someone asks you to plant 3 trees and you haven't got a home, don't worry me with that. But once we've realized our talents and brought abundance into the community, and we've developed our self-esteem, we have survival, security, love, and belonging, there's nothing we need more than to become part of a system, part of an ecology that is bigger than us. It's a human need. And when someone invites us to be a part of something meaningful, we feel touched. We feel grateful.